We have been making videos for this YouTube channel for many years now, and while the way that we make them has stayed pretty much the same really, the equipment which we use has of course changed and evolved and refined over the years. And recently, we've actually changed the majority of it out for new kit, new lighting setup, new camera, new lenses, new monitors, the works. So let's go through each area and chat through what we're now using and why we actually choose to use it. Okay, let's start with the big one, the camera. We've used Canon for a long time, starting on the C300 Mark II, and then the C300 Mark III and C70. And now we've upgraded to the new C80. And there is so much we love about Canon for our work, a few reasons why we've been so consistent with them. Firstly, it's the look. We have to make these videos very, very quickly. And so we use Canon's wide DR picture profile here in the studio, and that gives us these rich looking images with great colors straight away without really having to grade much. We do use C-Log when we're outside on bright sunny days, but for the most part, everything on this channel has been wide DR for a few years now. Another really important feature for us is H.265 support. Now we made a video which I'll link below discussing why we use H.265 for this content, but long story short, it gives us all the quality that we need and it keeps file sizes way down. An average project for us takes up about 80 gigabytes of storage with H.265 recording. And if we used a more traditional all-eye broadcast codec, that would easily be more like 350, even 500 gigabytes per video. So needless to say, that makes a huge difference, not just to our storage costs, but also editing speed and transfer speeds. It plays a big part in how quickly we can actually make these videos and fit them around our busy schedules, so it's hugely important for us. We also love having false color at the push of a button. We use this to expose all of the time, and we know exactly where we want to position these colors for it to look right on camera. I can very easily myself look quite pale and washed out on camera, so having this really helps us get it right. The other feature which we use all the time is of course autofocus. It's what drew us to the C300 Mark II back in the day in the first place, and although it's hardly a unique feature anymore, the face and eye tracking on the C80 is exceptional. Better than it's ever been, and we use it all the time. All of these points were true of course for the C70 which we used before. But the C80 has really taken the way that these videos actually look to the next level. It's full frame of course, which is great for helping make small studios like this look good. And although we're only recording in 4K, not the camera's full 6K resolution, the images are still much crisper and much more detailed than they were with the C70. And we really like that look because these are more technology focused product videos. We think it looks much better. Now, let's go through what is around the rest of the camera. We chose to use Condor Blue's C80 cage, which gives us all the rigging control which we need, while still being really lightweight and unobtrusive while you're holding the camera. Onto this cage, we've attached their locking cold true receiver up here at the top, and that lets us securely mount the receiver for the Rode Wireless Pro, which we use to record our audio. There's then the monitor swivel twist mount, which we use to attach the Hollyland Pyro wireless transmitter up here on the top. All the cables are run down this side neatly and clipped into place with Condor Blue's Mondo ties. Now these permanently live in place. We're using HDMI here. We could easily be using SDI because this is the C80, but we just happen to have this really nice braided and coiled Condor Blue right-angled cable. Then on the side and the bottom of the rig are two iFootage C-Star quick release mount plates. Now these are really small and don't get in the way, so they stay on the rig at all times, even when we're out and about. And they let us really quickly mount the camera onto the tripod, either horizontally or vertically for social media content. Now I mentioned that we use the Rode Wireless Pros for our audio, and that is for one very simple reason. The combination of 32-bit float recording internally and being able to monitor your audio in a regular way because of the receiver. For headphones, we use the Sennheiser HC25s, which have been a go-to pair of headphones for camera operating for many years, as they sound accurate and are portable and easy to pack away in a bag. Because you do still need to monitor your audio, even with 32-bit float recording. Now let's quickly talk about that 32-bit float and why we actually use it. As we just record pieces to camera like this one, there's nothing complicated about our audio, nothing challenging at all. It's not exactly like I vary my volume that much while I'm speaking. We absolutely do not need to use 32-bit float recording for this kind of work. I do recognize that. So why do we? Well, to be honest, it's laziness. Using 32-bit float just means that we don't have to set our levels while filming. We can do it in post. And not only that, not only can we adjust it until we get exactly the right level, but it also sounds great, better than it would have done before. So it's just easier for us. It's much, much easier, and the final result is better. The power for the rest of the rig, apart from the audio, comes from these Swit CA90C BPA batteries, which last for hours, and they give us DTAP output, which we use to power the Hollyland Pyro with. They can also be charged off of USB-C, which is handy when we're traveling. And because this Hollyland is using a locking DC input, the cable stays exactly where it is, permanently connected without falling out when we don't want it to. And we can easily swap that Pyro out for an Atomos Shinobi or Ninja monitor when we're out and about and we don't need this wireless system. So what is this wireless system for? Well, quite early on in making these videos, we discovered that it's much easier to work as a team, especially when one of you is in front of the camera and one of you is behind it, with a large monitor which you can both see. It helps with framing, with lighting, with B-roll, especially when you're holding the subject in your hands and showing it to camera like this. So we have this OSI Mega 22S, which we love. It's not perfect. My main frustration is that for some reason it doesn't have the same controls over the image as their other monitors. Contrast, saturation, sharpness, simple things like that. Very strange. But it can be calibrated by just plugging in a Calibrite Pro to the monitor directly, which that gets around a lot of that problem. It really helps the image be really quite color accurate. Apart from those controls, it ticks all our boxes. It's really large and very clear for us to see when working, even from across the room. It's very easy to run off Velox power and attach accessories to as well, because it has a built-in cheese plate. So we have an iFootage SpiderCrab articulating arm, attaching the Pyro receiver straight to the monitor. And we have it mounted on this iFootage A400 round-based monopod. Now we used to have this on a light stand, but recently decided to give this monopod a try instead. And so far, we love it. It is a bit heavier to pick up than a regular light stand, but because it's flat on the floor, it's much easier to work around in small places. Before, we would just be constantly tripping over light stand legs. At first, my colleagues thought it would be a bit unstable for this large 22-inch monitor, but actually, with the weighted bit on the bottom, you'd have to push it really quite hard to get it to fall over. Using a sandbag is obviously going to be much better, much safer, especially with members of the public around. But here in our studio, we've been using it fine as it is, as long as we don't try and get it too high, at head height or slightly above. With this large an area on the top, it can get a little bit top heavy. To mount the monitor to the monopod, we're using Manfrotto's VESA mount. This was another reason for choosing the OSI monitor. We needed a monitor with a VESA mount in the middle, so that we could quickly go from horizontal to vertical, just like with the camera. And this Manfrotto mount is what lets us do this. It's not unique, but most of the ones that we've seen let you keep the monitor attached and then rotate it. But the trouble with that is that your horizons are often going to be off. This mount simply has 2 spigot slots in it. So you just take the monitor off, physically flip it around and use the other hole. So it's a bit more effort and slightly slower, but your horizons will always be level on a flat floor like this and you don't have to worry about it too much, which is what we liked. Okay, so the last bit of the camera system that we haven't talked about yet is the lenses. We're using Canon's new RF hybrid lenses, and we have the set of the 3 fast f1.4 primes at 24, 35 and 50. We love these. We try and use these as much as possible, especially when we're here in the showroom. The quality is amazing, the size is really good, really small and light. We love using them. But when we're out and about and working quickly, we normally use zooms instead. So we have the new 24 to 105 f2.8 and 70 to 200 f2.8, the hybrid pair of lenses. These are ideal. They really are the go-to documentary lenses for Canon RF cameras now. And then we have the 100mm macro, which we really love for content like this, for those logo close-ups, the buttons, any detail shots which we need to get. This is the lens that we get out. So across those, we have pretty much any lens that we need for what we do here. And what's great is that the look stays consistent across them, no matter which one we pick. They're all very sharp and detailed, of course, but they also all have that exact same traditional, warm Canon characteristic to them. Nice clean bokeh as well, and of course incredibly fast and reliable autofocus. But just as important as the camera and lenses is of course the lighting. So we use Nanlite fixtures now, as we've settled on some lights which work really well for what we do here, and keeping them all inside one brand means that we can control them all with the app, of course, and that's very useful. So we have a Pavoslim 240CL as our key light, a Pavoslim 60CL on a C-stand boom arm, which is dual purpose, both a backlight in our Pista cameras and then an overhead light for our B-roll. And then we have the Forza 60C with its projector modifier on as our background and effects light. So let's talk through each of those in turn. For the key light, we've recently moved to this new Pavoslim 240CL. Up until this point, we've always used a cob light with a 90cm softbox, which works beautifully as a soft light, of course, but we've always run into two main problems with it. Firstly, it takes up a lot of physical space, and when you're working with low ceilings and around objects, that can be a challenge to maneuver around with. And secondly, because I wear glasses, the large round softbox does cause a lot of glasses reflections. Now the Pavoslim has really helped us fight both of those points, as you can maneuver it around much easier because of its shape, and because of that long, thin shape, it can sit much higher, much closer to the ceiling, and still be a very soft, flattering light that wraps around my face, and it really helps, because of its height, avoid the majority of those glasses reflections. And then we have the smaller Pavoslim, the 60CL. This is also a long, thin one because it helps get a nice backlight on both shoulders when you're limited with ceiling height, as we are here. It can push right up against the ceiling and just tuck neatly out the top of your frame. It's also great for booming over the subject as an overhead light in the B-roll. It really helps show off the shape of the product, its curves, give it a 3D feel because of that long, thin shape. It's also worth pointing out that both of these Pavoslims are really bright, way brighter than we actually normally need for filming in here. Then for the background interest and B-roll, we have the Forza 60C with its projector modifier, which we use to add these splashes of interest and colour to the background. Now sometimes these are big obvious gobo patterns like here, sometimes these are subtler patterns of broken light across the background. You know, we try not to overuse it, but let's be honest, we definitely overuse it. But it's just such an easy way of adding that spark of visual interest into your frame. So once we've finished filming, we have our edit suite, of course. Now this has been relatively unchanged for a few years now because it just works. It's a 16-inch MacBook Pro. This is an M1 Max version, so a few years old now, but it does still handle pretty much everything we need to throw at it. The only times it's struggled really has been with the high-end cameras like the Venice 2 or Ursa Cine 12K. Then we have a 32-inch Asus monitor for the editing UI, and a 4K SWIP reference monitor to judge our grade and image. All the footage is stored on the Simply Spark RAID drive, and our editing software of choice is DaVinci Resolve. Now we actually use the cloud plan of Resolve, which means that we can pull up the same projects with proxies to edit with on any of our laptops wherever we are. And that can be really useful for editing from home, or referencing an edit in some tests while writing a script, for example, which is something I do a lot. We love Resolve. There's so many bits of it we use all the time. We use the audio noise reduction tool a lot in a busy office like this. The grading tools are of course fantastic. And we have the original micro panel, which really helps to speed up our grades. So that's all the kit that we routinely use to create these videos. Hopefully that was helpful. We've got a page on our site which we're going to link to down below, which is going to detail all of this kit split up into these areas. So if you want to actually buy any of this for yourself, head over there. Thanks for watching though, and I'll see you in the next one.